Hello, welcome again to another review video. The model I have here is the Lotus Ford 79 of Sweden's Ronnie Peterson. This is the car he drove to victory at the 1978 Austrian Grand Prix. The model is made by a new player on the market, well, new anyways with the Formula 1 models, and they are called Modelcar Group. And it's a 1/18th diecast model, as you can see right here on the box. But first, for those who don't know, let me tell you who is Ronnie Peterson, or Peterson if you want. Bengt Ronnie Peterson was a Swedish Formula 1 superstar back in the 70s. He made his Formula 1 debut with the March team at the 1970 Monaco Grand Prix. He stayed for 3 years with the outfit, managing to finish second in the championship in 1971 with the weird but iconic 711 chassis. For 1973 he was brought to Team Lotus by Colin Chapman. He won his first Formula 1 race at the French Grand Prix that year and even won 3 more races in the aging Lotus 72. In the following seasons, Lotus failed to deliver a good car to his drivers and reverted back to the now antiquated Lotus 72 again. Ronnie still managed to take a handful of wins in it, one of which came at the Monaco Grand Prix in 74. After the first race in 76, still with Team Lotus, Ronnie grew frustrated with the team and moved back to March. He was replaced by his countryman Gunnar Nilsson. Peterson did still win that year's Italian Grand Prix at Monza, a track where he would always do well. In 1977 then he moved teams again to Tyrrell. The team however was struggling to make sense of the 6-wheeler P34 they introduced the year before, and good results were sparse. This prompted a return to Team Lotus, and at this time he had a car that matched his talent. Colin Chapman had come up with the revolutionary Lotus 79, the first ground effect car. It was introduced around mid-season and simply dominated from the get-go. The team, however, had an agreement with Ronnie that his American teammate Mario Andretti would be the number 1 driver. Although Ronnie was often the faster of the two, he held to the promise he made and played the role of wingman. His first victory with the Lotus 79 came at a very wet Zeltweg in Austria. This proved to be his last ever win, as a few weeks later, Ronnie was gone. At the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, Peterson was in a bad starting accident involving a whole bunch of other drivers like Patrese, Brambilla, Regazzoni, Depailler, Pironi and Hunt. Ronnie, who was driving the older Lotus 78 after he damaged his newer 79 model in practice, was caught up in the melee and crashed head-on into the barrier, which ripped off the whole front end of his car. It left him with badly broken legs, and to make matters worse, the fuel tank had ruptured too and caused an incredible inferno. Hunt, together with Depailler and Regazzoni, managed to pull Peterson out of the fire. Although his legs were severely mangled, he was taken to hospital alert and awake. The damage to his legs were such that the doctors initially wanted to amputate them, but after discussing the options with Ronnie, they worked on stabilizing the fractured bones until midnight and sent him to the intensive care unit in a stable condition. That night, however, his health took a turn for the worse. An embolism caused his kidneys and lungs to fail, and Peterson was declared dead at 9:55 on September the 11th, hence also the reason I released this video today. His teammate Andretti had gone on to finish 6th in the Italian Grand Prix once it was restarted. With Peterson being the only one in range mathematically now gone, Andretti became the 1978 Formula 1 World Champion. His title was a bittersweet one though, as he had lost a dear friend. Peterson was an immensely popular figure during the wild 70s. He was a charismatic person, and above all he was fast and spectacular. His driving style, similar to Gilles Villeneuve's, was very aggressive and always on the limit. There are a bunch of pictures of Ronnie sliding his Formula 1 car through the corners, but in a fast way, like only Gilles could do. His wife Barbara, with whom he formed a beautiful jet-set couple, never got to grips with Ronnie's death. She sadly took her own life years later, never getting over losing her husband. She was reunited with Ronnie, being buried next to him. Their daughter Nina, who was just 2 years old at the time of Ronnie's death, made a fantastic documentary about her dad in 2017 called SuperSwede, the nickname given to Ronnie. It stayed under the radar somewhat, but I strongly urge you to find it somewhere and watch it. I mean, it's well worth your time. Former Swedish Caterham and Sauber Alfa Romeo Formula 1 driver Marcus Ericsson paid homage to Peterson for the 2014 Monaco Grand Prix. For this race he adopted Ronnie's typical blue and yellow helmet design as a tribute to his fallen countryman's Monaco win 40 years earlier. So Modelcar Group decided to make a 1/18th version of the Peterson car. They also made an Andretti version, which is actually a bit different, a bit of a different model. It's from a different race as well. This one here is from the Austrian Grand Prix. Andretti model is from the Belgian Grand Prix, the race in which the 79 car was actually introduced. Both cars are a bit different then, and it's nice of MCG to actually make different versions of the same car. Minichamps 2 had made a version of their own back in 2015. Both their Andretti and Peterson cars are exactly the same shape. The Minichamps model does feature an opening engine compartment, although it's not as detailed as a Exoto model, for instance. GP Replicas also made a version of this car, but yeah, to be frank, that's just an overpriced and bad model. Let's have a look now at the box, and this is the packaging Modelcar Group uses. So just a normal box with their logo on it. The model is a 1/18 diecast, as I mentioned, and this is how the box looks like from the front. Nothing too special, just a simple windowed box. On the bottom then there is as usual all the licensing info, but on here there are no licensing logos like the ones from, let's say, Team Lotus or Goodyear from the tires. It just features their own logo here, the Modelcar Group logo, and the fact that it's part of the Speidel replicars. From their website I understand they are a distributor as well. Only here on the barcode there's some model info to be found. That's basically it. Also funny is that they mention it's a collector's packaging, but well, let's be honest here, I mean, there's not a lot to collect about this style of packaging, so I'll just turn it around and use it in the background here to remember which brand the model is. Then the model car itself, and it comes on this simple plastic base, reminiscent a bit of the bases IXO uses for their WRC cars. It has a bit of asphalt texturing in it and comes with these curbstones on the other side, which are just painted on. The base is normally surrounded by those plastic holders to protect the model car when it's in the box. On the base then there is this plastic molded piece, see-through piece here, to keep the model in place. Then there is a bit of model info here. So it is a Lotus 79, number 6 Ronnie Peterson, the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix 1978. A very nice thing is that it's an actual race specific model. First of all, you get the rain tires, as of course it was a rainy race, and actually they don't look bad at all. Also the model comes with tobacco sponsorship on it as standard, so you don't have to do that yourself. So yeah, that's pretty nice of them to do that. Even more impressive is that the model is actually totally different to the Andretti version they also released, as I mentioned. The Andretti car was based on the Belgian Grand Prix, the first race for the Lotus 79. And it of course has a slightly different livery, with a bigger race number on the front. And then the British flag is not on the nose tip. The side pods then have JPS on it instead of Olympus. And of course the car is on dry weather tires, slick tires. Also, the side of the cockpit is actually shaped differently. The roll hoop then is different too, much smaller than on the Peterson car. So it's not a case of just slapping on some different decals on the model, but they actually went through the effort of making a different mold for both versions. So at first sight, the model looks really great. It looks nicely proportioned. It comes with a driver figurine as well, and you get a nice and good feeling about it and the details, especially with these rain tires, which really makes the model stand out a bit. You can tell there are some finer details missing here and there. The figurine, for instance, has a see-through visor on the helmet, but the helmet itself is not that great, and there's no sponsorship on the figurine itself either. But yeah, I actually wanted to try and upgrade this model a bit and improve it and review it after that. But as I said, it's a pretty nice model as standard, I think, and you get a really good feeling about it, especially given its relatively low price point. Let's start by having a look at the cockpit area. First of all, I've done a few modifications on the helmet. I removed the bell branding, as Ronnie wasn't wearing a bell helmet at the time. I then also changed the visor decals. Gone is the big yellow band, which represented, I think, Ronnie's typical visor sun cap. And he actually wore a GPA helmet at the Austrian Grand Prix without that strip. On the figurine then I added the missing decals on the driver's suit. Of course they're a bit hidden by the seat belts that I added with those photo etched buckle details. Inside the cockpit then I also added these little stickers here, and then on the other side the FIA sticker. The steering wheel then has not been changed and looks quite okay with the Lotus decal in the middle and the colored bolts. The dashboard behind it has nice clear dials and looks quite good too. There's no gear stick lever on the side here, but that's fine as you can barely see it anyways. There is a bit of a panel gap though, visible as you can see right there. If we then look at the wings of the car, not a lot can be said here. The car had very simple front wings, just a simple single piece. I do like that they put this rivet detailing in the end plates, and the golden outline is also only on the Peterson model. The rear wing then is also just a single piece. Again, you have all of these rivet detailings on the end plates. The top ones are colored in, which is nice of course. And the inner parts of the rear wing is just plain black. The wheels of the model are a bit special of course, with these rain tires. The thread pattern looks quite good, especially on the big fat rear tires. As usual, I did some tire markings on the sidewalls, and I also thought the chrome wheels were a bit too shiny, so I tried dulling them down a bit by using my eyeshadow trick. The rims are also nicely shaped, I think. The ones at the back being deeper, of course, for the bigger tires, but they look quite good. The model has some nice smaller details on it then, like the rivets on the end plates, which I already showed. The suspension then is simple and a bit plasticky maybe. And the brake ducts are not very detailed either, but at least they are there. The opening of the side pods then has a little grill in it. On the top of those side pods then there are these big vents that are symmetrical. And they also show some radiator detailing behind it. The mirrors then on this Peterson version are different to the Andretti car. The roll hoop is different too, and here's a little detail in it, an engine cutoff ring. The covers then on the velocity stacks of the engine are just plastic, where it should be a mesh normally, but even the Mini Chance version had plastic covers, although it did have a bit of mesh detailing in the plastic. The exhaust then is not very detailed, but doesn't look too bad either. I think it should have some kind of heat shields over here, but I'm not really sure. The back of the car then looks quite good actually. The gearbox and rear suspension are nicely detailed, and there's maybe not a whole lot going on, but it shows enough details to make it right, in my opinion. Onto the positives and the negatives then. Of course, the biggest positive of this model car is its price, especially the level of detail you get for it is quite refreshing. And I really like that they also produce two different types of the Model 79, with this being the Austrian Grand Prix car with the rain tires, and of course the different cockpit shape as well. Another nice thing is that they already applied the tobacco decals themselves. And finally, the small details on the end plate and the whole back of the model are actually very good. On the negative side then, I'd say the colors of the sponsors and the outline is wrong. It's more of a brown golden color instead of the bit more yellow color they use in real life, I think. and it doesn't really detract from the model, but it's still quite noticeable, of course. The figurine then wasn't great either. Granted, for the money they ask, it's still decent, but the lack of detail is a bit annoying, I think. Same goes for these plastic covers on the engine. To conclude, I think it's great effort by the Modelcar Group. They have announced more championship winning model cars and their respective teammates as well, so I'm really looking forward to seeing more of them. I'm really happy that they did this Peterson model car, as I always thought the Mini Champs version looked a bit off, and of course their GP replicas is not good either and much too expensive. This model to me is how a budget Formula 1 model car should look like. Get the shape correct, have a bit of small details here and there, and make sure it has a few small extras to keep collectors happy. And of course, the price, once again, it's affordable, which is nice for beginning collectors too. And if you want more detail, you can always try and detail it more like I did. So this was my review of the MCG Lotus 79 118 diecast model car as driven by Ronnie Peterson. I'd like to thank you a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and come back for the next video soon.